Okay, so what we're going to do is show you how to do the little square cat and the intermediate so that it's all in one piece like this one. If you want the easier one where you have more sewing, I will provide that one down in the link below if you've run into the intermediate version. But this one's going to have minimal sewing. Mostly you're just going to be sewing up under here and that's it. Okay, so you're going to be doing the head and the tail all in one, and all you're doing is sewing up the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Go ahead and get you a 24 peg loom. You actually don't need it specifically for this one. You can do any loom that you have in possession as long as it has 24 pegs or more. Okay, you're knitting it flat the whole time, and so that's the reason why you don't need a round loom. But with the other one, you do need a 24 peg loom because you're doing the head. All right, so you're going to do a chain cast on. All right. Do a slip stitch, and then you're going to do a chain cast on. You can do a regular cast on. This is just going to make it easier to see when you're sewing up your bottom. Just going to make it easier. Okay, so you're going to cast on all your pegs. Okay. Just place that loop on the last one. Okay. For every row you do, you'll knit the last stitch, slip the first stitch. Last stitch, knit in each row, slip the first stitch in each row. All right, so at this rate, you're going to knit your way back. This is going to be row 1. Okay. Now, you're going to be knitting for 10 rows. Okay. And then, well, you're going to knit for 9 rows, I think. Yeah. You're going to knit for 9 rows. On your 10th row, you're going to do your head of your cat. Okay. So you'll knit 9 rows, and then you'll do the head of your cat, which will be your 10th row. There's only like 2 rows that are even kind of complicated. Okay, we're reaching the end. When I say knit the last stitch, slip the first stitch, this is what I mean. So you're going to knit that last stitch. Okay, so you see me knit the last stitch of the row. Slipping the first stitch means not knitting it. Okay, just skipping it. Get that out of my way. Okay, so you're just going to go from behind the peg and you're just going to slip it. And what this is going to do is create a nice chain on the side so that you have an easier time seeing where to sew. Okay. In sewing on things and knitting, sometimes it can get complicated as to where to sew it and that kind of thing. And I try to make it really clear as to where you can sew it. So knit the last, slip the first is what I call it. And it gives you that nice chain on the side to make it easier to sew. Okay. I'll show it to you one more time. And knit the last, go behind the peg, skip it, here, slip your first. Alright, so that is 2 rows. This is going on row 3. You want to do a total of 9 rows, and then we'll come back and we will work the head in, because the head is on one piece. Alright, pause video and get that much done. Okay, so we're going to be starting on the head next. As you can see, there's your 9 rows. Alright, we're slipping that first stitch. And then you're going to knit 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Now we're going to be working over the next 12 pegs for 24 rows. Okay. So go ahead and put a stitch marker on that first stitch that you're going to knit. Okay. And just knit it over. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Put a stitch marker on this one, 12. Okay. We are still doing the concept of slip the last stitch, because you're going to be adding these stitches back. So if you're used to my stuffed animals, you know what I'm up to. Alright, so knit your way over. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and you want to add a stitch marker to the peg before you knit it over. And knit over. This is row 2. I'm going to slip behind. I find it's easier when you go to slip to kind of slip underneath that stitch marker. It'll go up a little, it'll be pulled up a little easier. So you're going to knit your way over and then stop just before your stitch marker. And then add a stitch marker. Okay. So this is the next row. Stitch marker to that last stitch and knit it over and then go up under. What I mean go up under the stitch, as you can see the stitch marker to go up under it. See it cross behind it. See? Alright. So you have done 4 rows at this point in time. Okay. So yeah, this will be the 4th row. Sorry, trying to keep up. It's really early in the morning for me. Alright, so you knit your way over. This is row 4. And you're going to keep doing this for a total of 12 rows. Okay. And then we're going to start adding these back. Okay. But if you want to sew up the sides, you can do the you can do just 24 rows with the slipping on it, and you can sew up the sides. But because if you're wanting to do this, you don't like to sew any more than I do. So you're doing this because you don't want to sew. So you'll do this technique. It's no different in time to do it the other way. I find it actually takes longer to sit there and sew up the head and sew up the body, sew on the head, sew on that. So it actually does not take any longer to do it this way. fact, it probably saves you a little time. Okay. This will be row 6. So go ahead and pause the video and complete your 12 rows of knitting back and forth, and make sure that you're constantly adding a stitch marker, okay? Because we're going to be adding them back later. It makes it so much easier to do it this method. I can do it without it because I've been doing it a while, but to make it easier on you, you do the stitch marker. Go up underneath. All right, so pause the video and get your 12 rows done total, and then we can move on from here. Okay, I just remembered this when I got down to it. When you get to the last row, you're coming back, you don't need to put a stitch marker on that peg. You don't need to put a stitch marker on your last row. If you had, it's not a big deal. You can just take it off. The way we've added them, you can just take them off. All right. So now what we want to do is add back. What you're looking for at this point is your closest stitch marker, which is this one, as you can see. This is your closest stitch marker to the peg. You're going to pick that up and you're going to add the stitch back. Okay. You take that stitch marker off. You're going to slip behind and go ahead and knit your way over. And then when you get to that side, you will knit 2 stitches together. Okay, knit the 2 stitches together. Alright, then you will come over here and you will find whatever your first one is. That looks like it. You're going to put it back on the peg. And peg. You're going to slip behind. You're going to keep slipping that first peg. You're going to knit your way over. And then when you get there, you're going to knit the 2 together. Okay. And this starts adding it back and closing it up, so you don't got to sew it up. Okay. No, I didn't figure out how to sew it to do the bottom where you didn't have to sew it up. All right. You take it behind. You come over here and you find your first stitch that's closest, which is going to be this one. You're going to put it on. And you're going to continue this process until you are down to the last 2 stitch markers. Or you do another 12 rows. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video, continue this process until you are down to the last 2 stitch markers. Right. And then we will progress on. And it's really easy from here on out, actually. Once you get past the head, which is the hardest part, you're pretty much easy going from here on out. Alright, so pause the video, get down to your last 2 stitch markers, and then we'll come back. Okay, I said keep going until you're down to your last 2 stitch markers. What this is your original stitches. Bring your original loops back, original stitches back. And you're going to bring both of them back. And what this does is close in any hole that might have developed. And that way you don't have any holes. Okay. Alright. And you can see you got a little pocket here at your head. It will show up more once you actually work past this. and are start able to pull it down. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to knit two together, and then you're going to knit your way over. Knit two together, and then knit six to finish the row. Okay, at this point, you're going to knit another 9 rows. So naturally you continue to knit the last stitch, slip the first stitch. So you'll want to knit another 9 rows. So go ahead and pause the video and complete your rows, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the tail. Okay. Okay. So you've done your 9 rows, and you can see your little head there. Okay. There's your ends. All right. So next thing you want to know, you're going to need 2 stitch markers. You're going to do your tail. And you may want to do this before you even get over there. What you're going to do is you're going to count over, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here's your 12. You're going to put a stitch marker on your stitch 12 and stitch 13. This is your center back. Alright. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to knit your way over, and you're going to work your tail. Okay. Alright. Here we go. You're going to knit over 1. Okay. Row 2. Row 3. Go back, behind, and front, and in front. Row 4. Row 5. Row 6. Row 7, and you're going to do this for 20 rows, okay? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. You're going to bind it off. So you're going to take this first stitch, you're going to move it over 1, toss the bottom loop over, and then wrap, toss, wrap. Do that twice. You're going to need your scissors. You're going to cut, pull it through. I like to pull it down. What that does is create a knot, because I don't want to weave an end on a tail. So tighten it up as much as possible and clip it close. Okay, there's your tail. Now, you don't want that sitting on this side. You want to shove it down in there. Okay. See, where it's over here on this side. Now, what you want to do now is you want to go in and you want to add those original stitches back. Okay. Voila, you have a tail. Alright. Then you do a slip stitch. And you put it on the 12th stitch. Okay. And then you're just going to knit your way over. Okay. Here's your stitch 12 and 13. And knit your way to the end. We're actually almost done knitting. Okay. Now, we're back to knitting 9 rows. So, slip behind, knit your way around. You're going to knit for 9 rows, and then you'll be ready to bind off. And then all we got to do is stuff and sew. It's really easy from here on out. So, okay. And then keep going. So knit for another 9 rows. That was row 1. So you want to knit for another 9 rows. And then we'll be ready to bind off. If you know how to bind off, just do a regular bind off, okay? But I will show how to do that. All right, so pause the video, get your 9 rows done, and we'll come back. Okay, you've done your 9 rows. You're ready to start binding off. So you're just going to knit the 2nd stitch, pick it up, move it over 1, toss the bottom loop over, knit the 2nd stitch, take it back 1, toss the bottom loop over, different 1, knit the next stitch, take it back, knit over, and bind off all. But when you get to the end, you want to cut you a nice long tail. That's going to sew you up, okay? So pause the video and get that much done, and we'll come back and we'll finish up. Okay, we're done with the knitting process, and there's your tail, and there's your head. Okay, go ahead and set your stitches. Okay, now what you want to do when you're sewing up, all right, you're going to fold things in half. All right, you need to find your center point. Okay, when you find your center point, put a stitch marker there. Center point, put a stitch marker. You want to do this for every part of the square. Okay. Same for these sides here. Okay. And once you have your center point, you're going to connect those center points to sew down. Okay, this will make all sense. All right, now what you want to do now is you want to connect those ends right there. See that? Okay, now we're going to sew up. Let's see if I can find my needle. There it goes. Okay, so you're going to sew up that corner. There's a reason I did such a long tail. If I don't hold it up. If I hold it up, it's close to the end. I'll sit there and mess with that. Okay. Alrighty, so you're going to thread your needle, and you're going to fold the middle of one side, as you can see, one of the long sides. This side to this side, you're going to fold it. Okay. You're going to center it up, and then you're going to sew it together. And this is where chain to chain comes in, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay. So, all right. So you're going to find your chain. You're going to stick the needle through there. And you're going to stick the needle through the next chain. See? This makes it to where you have nice and even stitches. Okay. I'm just going to do that. You're going to continue to do that until you reach your stitch markers. Okay. All right. And it should be about one more. Okay. Now, you're going to remove that one. You don't need it now. Now, you want to take this one over here and connect it with that one here to sew up the other side. Okay. So you're going to take and connect that. And once you do that initial connection, you could then take out your stitch markers because you're just finishing up that side. Okay. This is pretty much the only sewing that you'll have to do unless you want to do it more of a shaping to the head. Then you'll be doing more there. Okay. At this point, you're just going to finish sewing up this side. This is the other leg. All right. Okay. Usually I just send through that chain. Now, we've got the back stuff, but I don't want to cut my sewing yarn. So when I stick it, I want to do is stick it through the needle through the tip, pull it through gently. Don't pull it through too tight. Okay. Now that you've done that, you know where your halfway point is because you've just sewn it. All right. So at this point, you can start this way or you can start this way. I'm going to go ahead and start this way. Now, you'll notice that it wants to loop around. It's because the chains are loose, but you're still going to go chain to chain. All right. So you're going to find your chain here. See, there's your chain. Gently find the next chain. Okay. Once you actually start sewing in the chain sections where they match up, it becomes easier. So you just find your next chain and sew it. And that's what equalizes that out. Okay. So don't worry. As you can see, it's already starting to tighten it up. Okay, if you're going to this tip, you may want to just shove that in there so that you ain't having to deal with it. Okay. Pull through. Okay. And then you just send it back through the tip. Pull through. Okay. Now you shouldn't really need the stitch marker anymore. Where halfway mark is. Okay. So now you're going to go in and you're going to sew up the rest of it. Don't pull too hard. You should have a nice center hole here. Okay. And you're just going to end up gathering those stitches. That's all you're going to do. Okay. So go ahead and sew up this last bit. Send it through. Okay. Now, you should have a nice little hole that you can finish up stuffing. All right. Send that back through. And now it's time to stuff. Looks kind of funny at this point. Okay. So what you're going to do, just going to start stuffing in there, stuff the head. And you stuff the little leg area as best you can. Here. I usually like to stuff and twist and mold. There's an art to stuffing. I mean, yeah, you can just put the stuffing in there, but you gotta mold it and shape it. Because stuffing condenses down. You can go in and stuff it like that and then twist and smash. And just keep going. You may need to stuff your head a little bit more. But remember, you're going to be tying a little thing around there to finish it off. And, oops, okay. And I'm just going to shove that in there. Alright, I think I'm about done with my, doesn't look like much yet. Alright. Now you're going to take and kind of drawstring all that together. So, looks like a really fat cat, doesn't it? Alright. I'm just going to go in and wrap it. Pull it down. Okay. Now, just send it through the body. Okay, now you have an option here. You'll notice that your ear section is not as defined. Okay. If you want to make that area more defined, send it up to one of the corners. Okay. And you can either sew up that or you can try to gather it. Where it gives you a little ear. And you can do a little sewing tip if you want. Okay. Now, what finishes this off is the tie around the neck. Okay. And what you can do is Try to get it as close to the base as possible. Gives you more of a head. Now you can do this internally if you'd like, or you just tend to weave it through. There you go. And if you want some more stuffing to go up in the head, you can take and push it in there. Okay. As I said, this is molding. Okay. Knot it in place. And you can just tie a little. Tie the ends together a couple times. Okay. Snip the end. At this rate, you can just sit there and mold it. But there is your little kitty cat. And that is how you do the version where you don't have to sew. And honestly, it looks like it takes you about 10 to 15 minutes less to do this version. Okay, so that is how you do the intermediate version of the square cat. Okay.